the bird table, and I'm going to go and put some mealworms round the back and a smaller banquet log, and we'll see the difference that they will actually make their way around there. I mean, the starlings, they forage in fields, you know, they are garden birds, and that is man that has created that. The habitats have changed, they've not really got a choice, and in some respects with pesticides on fields, etc., I think it's probably safer for them to be in gardens where we can manage them effectively. But it is about management. This is because I've come back from the allotment and I haven't managed my garden, because I would normally put fresh water in, and I would put more food on the bird stones, and I would put some round the back so that they can be split up a little bit. And the sparrows don't bother. The sparrows sit on the fence. They've been in earlier anyway before I went out. You know, they all pick their moment to come in. It's a garden for all, and it's not a problem. Some people see it as a problem for starlings. Well, you know, we can't all like the birds of our country, but I love these birds. I think they're the most charismatic, absolutely exotic birds. And actually, you know, a lot of people share this kind of video, which I wouldn't normally share, because it seems to put people off, thinking, oh, I don't want these birds in my garden because they're noisy and you know, and they're going to frighten all the other birds away and all this kind of thing. But I get over 21 species coming in this garden, and you know, I create areas, even though it's only a small garden, there's areas where I hide food and so that this doesn't happen. But you know, it is the time now for breeding, obviously. And so, you know, there's been 12 starling fledglings, you can see them all in the shed as well there, that have arrived in the last 10 days. Before that there was another 18 I think, and they're starting to get the little black heart dots on them now, so you can tell which ones they are, and they're sort of sorting themselves out a bit, and I'm seeing them more along the street now. I'm so happy today, because when I first started campaigning for these birds in the village and getting people to understand them a little bit more, and, you know, I started with sparrows, and then the starlings befriended the sparrows more with the church and the tree being felled at the church, so they started to roost on the roof. But now that they're all on the street, you know, my friend is saying that they're in their cavities, they're in the vents, they're not bothered, they put water out for them, they're roosting their trees at night. And at one time I'd walk along my street and it would just be sparrows that you saw in the privets and on the rooftops, and the odd starling, and the starlings seem to congregate around my area. And I've been willing them a little bit to spread their wings and, you know, try other gardens as well, because I think it is a small garden, and I'm just hoping that people will take to them, because I'm leaving this home very shortly. I'm literally only going 2 minutes diagonally across the road, and they will find me. And spiritually, you know, I've been sort of willing them to sort of move across the village, and that is what they're doing. There have been some other factors as well, because the jackdaws have had their roosting sites felled. BT said the tree was, you know, getting too close to the wires, etc, etc, and so they've been felled unbeknown to me, and I wondered why the jackdaws had started to come onto the church roof, which put the starlings off. So they tend to roost in the hedgerows and the trees at the back of me now, but they're also all around the village. My friend is saying, you know, they've had them in their garden, and I'm pretty happy about that, because they seem to be around my house and around this church. And I don't think the church particularly wants them around, and you know, and the neighbours as well, to be quite honest. But you know, at this time of the year, they move their cars, they don't really like the starlings. But that's life, isn't it? You know, people don't like birds of prey, people don't like magpies, jackdaws. I pretty much love them all, to be quite honest. If they all came in and had, you know, a meal in my garden, I'd be quite happy. And I'm sure they would all get on, because it would be a peaceful environment. Now they are calming down a bit now, and they're pecking away at the seed. You know, there's no mealworms down there. You know, everybody feeds them mealworms, and I think it's brilliant. They do find worms out in, well, rurally around me. So they tend to feed them to their young first, and they come in the evening and they have a nibble at what I have on offer in the garden. So, you know, I don't give them a lot of mealworms now. I've been sort of moving them away from them a little bit, except in the winter. You know, in the winter time, I do tend to put a lot more mealworms out for them, because the insects aren't there. The insects, even though in the village there's a nature reserve, we've got woodlands, there are a lot of birds in this village now. And, you know, a lot of blackbirds and robins and blue tits. And so, you know, there's a lot of competition out there. But, you know, these two birds, the starling and the sparrow, are garden birds. And although some nature arenas, you know, they don't particularly like you feeding birds, at the end of the day, what's happening in nature with housing, you know, trees being felled, habitats being robbed for housing and fracking and all these manner of things, that the garden is going to be the place where birds will turn to. And, you know, this create a sanctuary that I've been spreading hashtag on my Save Our Sparrows page, you know, it's nothing new. You know, it's just about making your garden wildlife friendly. Everybody has been sharing that for a long time, but for these two birds, you know, they're not always welcome. And, you know, I'm a catalyst. You know, I've made things happen across many arenas, and my ex-director, bless him, you know, he said, you know, you are a catalyst for change. Don't change who you are, and I don't intend to. And he just said, you know, you plant the seed and it grows, and that's what I do. I touch things, I see that it's happening, and then I move on to something else to help another arena. And so I feel like sparrows I've helped to increase in the village. I've highlighted problems and spoke to people on my walks, and this year, you know, it's the starlings that I'm seeing the reward now of all the hard work put in, of all the feeding, all the talking to people about them, and just the delight of last year, you know, a commemoration, you know, which I prefer to see birds like this being fed, and they go off to supply people with the photography and the spectacle that they want, the commemoration. You know, if people don't feed them in the gardens, the commemorations are going to stop. I mean, I find them fascinating. I've seen quite a few in my lifetime, and they are unbelievable. But whenever I look at a commemoration, I just think, well, who's talking about feeding these birds in the garden? And that was one of my main aims, which I did target the nature charities, the bird charities, to say, you know, PR about the starling has to change. You know, it's always a gaping mouth flying in the air photograph, and we have to share the calmness of the starling as well, and the fact that they are in decline. And I'm not saying that they haven't shared that at some point, but we need to reiterate it a bit more and make people want these birds in the garden. So this is too long now to share on Twitter, so I'm going to have to put it on YouTube. But I think I say it how it is. You can see the success that I've had with these birds from nothing, and it's taken 3 or 4 years to bring that to fruition. And from a tree being felled where they've roosted for years, they found my garden, and yeah, and that's where it all started. And now people just, you know, go wow when they soar across the village. You know, they come flying down the village, they're in the fields, they're on the telephone wires, even the children at school. I went in to speak to them a few weeks ago, and they're coming up to me now in the playground and saying, oh, we put water out, and oh, we've seen the starlings, yeah, we've seen them over the fields. And you know, that's what it's all about, education, you know, and anybody can do it, but not everybody can do it. you know, and so if I've been given that gift to be able to have a mouth on me, to be able to do it, then I'm going to do it. And there you go. I've just got one solitary starling now. So I'm going to just go and refresh the water bowls, and then we can get them bathing. And I'm going to put a bit more seed out for them now, because it's evening time, and I'm leaving these guys, and I want to give them the best start ever till July, so that when I do leave, wherever they go in the village, wherever they fly to, they've had the best start possible. I'm in no doubt that they will still remain living in this little micro gem that I'm leaving here, which I'm really sad about. I've done all my tears, tantrums and crying, and there's more to come probably, but I've just got to think, believe and be positive that they will follow me. I'm only down the road, and I have to keep telling myself that already I have seen them on my roof. I've seen the sparrows singing above my door just down the village, and the thing is, if they come to my garden where I'm going to, well, it will certainly wake the neighbours up, because it is much smaller than my garden here, and I haven't got a wildlife area at the back like I have here. I'm hoping that they will spread out a little bit, but you know what, if they come, they come. They won't get turned away, and you, as a manager of your own garden and what happens in it, you determine whether you want how long you want birds to come in your garden. I am not putting fat balls, and I'm not putting banquet rolls out for them filled with insects and mealworms and all kinds of things in the summer months. They have to learn naturally, like their parents will show them, to feed off nature. At present, there is enough out there for them around here. For the future, I don't know, and I will explore that. External influences, I'm always looking at what's happening, and the birds will tell me, and I will see the changes and the differences, and I will adapt to that. And yeah, so I just pray that they will grace my wall down there and pop in, and I will manage that effectively. If you have food or seed in your garden, they will come. I don't do it for photography, I don't do it for doing videos. These are memories that I want, and I want my grandchildren to see these. I upload a lot to YouTube, my grandson watches them, and I want them to be able to see what nature was like when I'm not here, and I want them to see that their nana fought for their future. So my kids get a bit embarrassed by me sometimes, but that's what you do for your kids, isn't it? You're there to embarrass them. So when they watch this at some point in the future, I'm sure they will laugh, because they were brought up in nature, and I lived in it from the age of 5 or 6 really. My dad used to take me in the woods, and I've never stopped going in. So, well, there you go. I hope that is of some use or inspiration, and please, anybody, if you want any help in achieving what I've created, it really isn't that hard. It's daunting. When you watch programs, be mindful of the fact that you don't need much to attract nature into your garden. Slow is fast, and for some people, they can't reach nature. So I've got my patio doors open here, and when I was ill, that's what I did. I threw those doors open, and they got me a bird table with my kids, and the birds were coming in already, and I just used to throw seed down, but that's where it started. And yeah, it's just been a fantastic journey, and this house just means the absolute world to me. I feel like I'm leaving a part of